Hi, hello, salutations milk lovers, the mayor will have you now. I love Cyberpunk a very normal amount. I am quite fond of it. From the lore, the gameplay, there is nothing I don't adore to some degree in this game, and no piece of content I don't want to dive into more every day. And this game has a lot of player expression involved in its gameplay. None of my playthroughs have felt the same with the many builds and personalities I have curated for my Vs, but even though I could marry this game honestly, it's not immune to criticism. And along the many reviews I have seen of Cyberpunk 2077, I couldn't disagree on the front that the stealth in this game lacks a bit of that player expression, while combat is fully transformed by the way you build your character. Stealth, a major part of the game if you want to be a merc worth the eddies, is not impacted to the same degree. There are 3 ways to do stealth: like a monkey, moving around, grabbing phones and killing gongs with noseless weapons; as a netrunner, where you have the most player freedom with the many hacks at your disposal; and then as a tech sniper of some sort, highlighting enemies and flatlining them from the comfort of another building, shooting through the walls. There are perks and implants relative to stealth, but they all do the same thing, only in different ways. They just give you more leeway as to when you're visible or not. And these perks and implants even have some use in normal combat. I want to imagine more ways to impact stealth with your build, not by creating new perks, but by adding more depth with your implants, specifically your arm implants. If the stealth implants add depth to regular combat, I feel like combat implants should have a use and transform the way you can sneak around in some way, shape or form. This is going to be a short one, but if you like this concept, leave a like, subscribe, all that good YouTube bureaucracy. Let's say Shroom got a good word with a Prim Reaper dog and he's groomed you up with Mantis blades. Its ability to leap and tear through enemies is invaluable to stay nimble but deadly in a fight, but your fixer has lent you a gig where they want you to keep quiet. How do you do that? As a living, breathing butcher knife. These are not subtle weapons, but they are refined ones. You can power them up quick, and plus you have 2 of those. Having them on gives you 2 new advantages related to takedowns. First, you can now do a takedown up front. While you're walking in on an enemy or threatening you to delta before things get ugly, simply pop out your blade and flatline him off the bat. This takedown is instant. You can't drag them into a dimly lit corner, nor can you take him out non-lethally with this, but it's an easy way to dispose of someone who's alone on the far side of their territory. Secondly, if you have 2 people in front of you, you can stab them in the back simultaneously for a double elimination. Disposing the corpses is a little more complicated, so beware, but that changes everything. Now positioning matters way more. You're looking for pairs, patrols, moments where enemies cluster. Mantis stealth is athletic, aggressive, almost impatient. You don't clean up after yourself, you're just more equipped to roam around and deal with targets you couldn't before. Now, if you're more the techie type and you're running monowire, stealth should lean into control and cleanliness. It's an elegant weapon that adds to an already elegant build. Net running alone is powerful enough to cleanly wipe off a warehouse full of gang goons, so let's give it more leeway by giving it more range to stay hidden. With the length of your wires, you can now grab isolated enemies from a few meters to bring them to you in a chokehold. You can also do so from a high place to dispose of their body on an elevated surface, if that's more secure. Eliminating someone like this will slow down the demon dragging on your ass, because you're using your monowire to send a signal through this false cyberware, making the netrunner think he's found you only to continue his search when they realize they've stumbled upon a decaying decoy. Staying in the shadows is easier than ever, disposing of bodies, slowing down progress to locate you. Now, gorilla arms. Yes, this one's tricky and also kind of funny. How does an implant built for throwing humans like frisbees add to a quiet endeavor, where throwing stuff means staying out of sight, so there are newly added perks to having gorilla arms. But corpses aren't the only thing you can throw. Like main, you can throw those explosive canisters you find everywhere, picking one up, jumping onto a roof and decking that shit on a group of unsuspecting enemies, blowing them up to smithereens. If you didn't stay in plain sight like a gong, that is. Weakening enemies enough to not have to waste time grabbing them while they're on patrol. A punch from the back could do for the weakest one. Picking bodies up and using them as weapon, thrown into a crowd and harming each of them while staying out of their radar. As you can understand, not a subtle playstyle, the most prone to get detected, but you also gain the strength to carry 2 bodies on your arms, now for a more quiet application, letting you clean out a scene in a flash, yanking them into a bin. And then there's the unhinged one, the projectile launcher system. A cyber psycho going around quietly with an RPG for an arm? Actually, yeah. Imagine this. You sneak up behind a guy, launcher aimed at the back of his head. Instead of a takedown prompt, you get a threat prompt and you give him an order. You can order him to highlight everyone here, lead a fella you've highlighted to this location, make a scene near a canister, or hijack the netrunner so that he doesn't notice any hack perturbation on the field for a good 30 seconds while the dude you were threatening is bugging him. And here's a catch. It's not guaranteed. Just like in regular takedowns, tough enough gongs will just try and slip their way out, but unlike regular takedowns, that just means you're blowing their brains out, vaporizing their dome so that you get detected all the same if an enemy escapes your grasp, but now you're starting the fight with one less goon to worry about. So yeah, what if he doesn't comply? You pull the trigger, combat starts, no takebacks. So launcher stealth becomes audacious, high risk, high reward. You're coercing, you're basically gambling with this. And suddenly, stealth isn't just one thing anymore. Depending on your arms, it becomes quiet and methodical, fast and acrobatic, loud but controlled, or bold and manipulative. Same levels, same enemies, completely different approaches. And that's the kind of player expression Cyberpunk is already good at, but just isn't there yet. Let's pray for Orion. In a game like Cyberpunk, stealth should feel like intent, like a consequence of who you choose to become, not its own thing partially disconnected from your build, with its own branches of existence separate from what you've already curated for other situations. What I'm really poking at here isn't balance or realism or whether CDPR would ever implement something like this. It's the idea that your Chrome should speak before you do. Your V should have more expression in stealth, even if they're not maxed into it. Same gigs, same layouts, different mercs. And if Orion ends up pushing player expression even half a step further in that direction, I'll be there. I'll be there anyway. Who am I kidding? I'm gonna bring kids into this world just to sell them for the money of a powerful enough computer to run Orion. So yeah, tell me which arm you'd run. Furthermore, if there are other things you think are worth reimagining in the gameplay or world of Cyberpunk, let's talk about it in the comments. I could do this again with another facet of the game that needs improving. For now though, my hot chocolate is perfectly hidden. So I'll see you next time, hopefully. This has been the Mayor. See you, goodbye, farewell.